The two boys were about to pee when they were suddenly stunned by the scene that appeared before them. Japanese warplanes, dense like locusts, flew through the valley. Immediately after, they rushed just towards the US military's Pearl Harbor, and thus began the treacherous attack that would rewrite history. When the Japanese planes emerged from the valley's terrain cover, they quickly flew at low altitude, skimming the ground. Even though they had reached the limits of the aircraft's performance, the Japanese still forced their way forward, and all of this was to avoid detection by the US military's radar. Soon the Japanese aircraft squadron arrived over the harbor area. At this time, most of the American forces were still in a relaxed weekend mood. Some US soldiers even mistook the planes for their own air force conducting exercises, since they hadn't heard any air raid alarms. Then when the Japanese planes reached their target, they immediately dropped the first torpedo. The torpedo spun in the water, heading straight for the US battleships. With more and more torpedoes being dropped, the intense explosions and violent tremors made the US soldiers finally realize that this wasn't a drill. The soldiers rushed to the deck to launch a counterattack. However, by that time, the Japanese had already seized the initiative. The Japanese bomber squadron had reached an altitude of 3,000 meters. The bombardiers quickly locked onto their target, the USS Arizona battleship. Then they decisively dropped a 950-kilogram, specially made armor-piercing shell, and at that time the USS Arizona was not only the US military's strongest battleship, but also the core of the Pacific Fleet's deterrence. The Japanese had planned to target it even before the attack began. Very quickly, the armor-piercing shell precisely landed on the deck and directly penetrated into the ammunition storage below. According to the US military's post-battle damage report, the storage held 1,400 shells. When the delayed fuse of the armor-piercing shell was triggered, a chain reaction of explosions occurred at the bottom of the ship. In just a few minutes, the US Arizona sank directly into the sea.